What if I told you that one of the most powerful tools for managing your blood pressure isn't sitting in your medicine cabinet but might be forgotten right now in a corner of your kitchen? Today, I want to talk to you about 3 common, affordable fruits that you can pick up at any local grocery store and that your heart will deeply thank you for. These aren't miracles. They are not going to replace the pills your doctor prescribed. I want to make that crystal clear right from the first minute. But they can become amazing allies in managing your blood pressure, working right alongside the treatment you're already on. The silent struggle of hypertension. Let me start with a simple question. How many of you are living with high blood pressure and sometimes feel like it's a never-ending battle? You take your medication religiously, you barely put a pinch of salt on your food, and yet, when you check your pressure at home or at the pharmacy, the numbers still aren't quite where you want them to be. If you've ever felt this way, I want you to know one thing. You are not alone, and this is not your fault. High blood pressure is one of the most common conditions among older adults in our country, and that is exactly why it deserves to be discussed calmly, honestly, and with respect. I've spent many years helping older folks who live with hypertension, and there's something I see time and time again, the belief that high blood pressure is a life sentence, something that can only be controlled with pills, and that's it. Today, I want to offer you a different perspective, an honest one. I'm not going to promise that your blood pressure will magically drop in a matter of minutes, because that wouldn't be true, and you deserve the truth above all else. What I will tell you is what science has observed regarding the connection between what we eat and our blood pressure. I'll explain it simply so that you can make informed decisions, always hand in hand with your primary care physician. Stay with me until the end, because by the time this video is over, you'll understand 3 things. 1. What high blood pressure actually does to your body. No exaggerations, but no sugarcoating either. 2. Why these 3 fruits can help and how they work on the inside. 3. A safe, reasonable way to incorporate them into your daily life, along with some crucial warnings that almost no one bothers to mention, warnings that for some are a matter of actual safety. Let's take it step by step, without rushing, the way important things should be done. What is blood pressure, really? Many people just see it as a number on a monitor, 2 figures separated by a slash and nothing more. But behind that number is a very real physical process happening inside you, right at this exact moment. Blood pressure is the force with which your blood pushes against the walls of your arteries every time your heart beats. Your heart is an endless pump. With every beat, it sends blood throughout your body via a system of pipes we call arteries. Pressure is simply the force of that push. The garden hose analogy. Picture the garden hose you use to water your plants. If the water flows gently, the hose is relaxed and flexible. But if you turn the faucet up all the way and pinch the nozzle, the pressure inside spikes. The rubber tenses up, gets hard, and vibrates. Your arteries work in a similar way. When your pressure remains high for months and years, those walls, which are meant to be flexible, have to work under constant strain. And here is the part you really need to understand because it's the key to everything. High blood pressure usually doesn't hurt. It gives no warning. A person can have sky-high blood pressure and feel completely fine. That's why hypertension is known as the silent killer. It does its damage in the shadows. What exactly is that damage? Let me explain it honestly, without unnecessary drama, but without hiding anything, because understanding the why is what gives us the strength to take care of ourselves. The arteries. When arteries endure high pressure for a long time, their inner walls, which should be smooth and elastic, begin to suffer. They lose flexibility and become stiff. That stiffness forces the heart to work even harder to pump the blood, which in turn keeps the pressure high. It's a vicious cycle, which is why it's so important to step in. The heart. Think of a muscle that has to lift an excessively heavy weight day after day, without rest. At first, it gets stronger, but over time, if the load is too heavy, that muscle gets exhausted and weakens. The heart is, after all, our most important muscle. When it works under high pressure for years, it can become enlarged and less efficient. Controlling your pressure isn't just a doctor's whim, it's how you protect the engine that has been beating for you since before you were born. The kidneys. The kidneys are also heavily impacted, even though they're rarely talked about. Your kidneys are filled with tiny, delicate blood vessels that filter and clean waste from your blood. Sustained high pressure slowly damages those fine filters. And here's a crucial point. Damaged kidneys are worse at controlling blood pressure, which makes your hypertension even worse. Everything in the body is connected. The brain. For me, this is perhaps the most powerful reason to take this seriously. The brain needs a steady, well-regulated flow of blood. High blood pressure is one of the leading risk factors for a stroke. I don't want to scare you, I want to inform you, which is very different. The great news is that properly controlling your blood pressure is one of the most effective ways to lower that risk. What we do every day, with our diet, our treatments, and our habits, has a real impact on protecting our minds and our independence. And for us, independence is almost everything. Being able to take care of ourselves, not being a burden to our kids, waking up every morning and deciding what to do with our day, that is what we are protecting when we manage our blood pressure. The sodium and potassium tug of war. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, that sounds grim. But here is where I want to shift the tone, because the other half of the truth is deeply hopeful. Your blood pressure responds to the medication your doctor prescribed, of course. Those medications save lives and should never be stopped on your own. But your pressure also responds to how you live, and especially to how you eat. Within our diets, there is a hidden dynamic that almost no one mentions, and it's going to be the central thread of everything we discuss today. The balance between two minerals, sodium and potassium. Understanding this is understanding the heart of the matter. Sodium and potassium live in our bodies, and in a way, they play tug of war. Sodium, which we get mostly from salt, tends to hold onto water in the body. More retained water means a higher volume of fluid circulating, and more volume generally means more pressure against your artery walls. Potassium, on the other hand, helps your kidneys flush out that extra sodium through your urine. It also helps the walls of your arteries relax. Simply put, sodium tends to push your pressure up, and potassium tends to balance it out. So, what is the problem with modern American life? This balance has been completely shattered, and in the worst possible way. We eat way too much sodium and way too little potassium. Salt is everywhere, and I'm not just talking about the salt shaker on your dining table. You can see and control that. I'm talking about the hidden salt in deli meats, aged cheeses, breads, canned goods, bouillon cubes, frozen meals, and salty snacks. It's invisible salt that piles up without us even noticing. The World Health Organization recommends staying under 5 grams of salt a day, which is about 2,000 milligrams of sodium, roughly 1 level teaspoon of salt for the entire day. Most of us unknowingly consume way more than that. At the same time, we don't get enough potassium. International guidelines suggest we need around 3,500 milligrams daily, and that potassium is found exactly where we often fail to look, in fruits, vegetables, and legumes. So we have a majority of older adults with a surplus of sodium and a deficit of potassium. It's like having a scale that is completely tipped to one side. This is exactly where our 3 featured fruits come in today. They are 3 tasty, natural, and accessible ways to start fixing that imbalance. Before we continue, I want to ask you a quick favor so I know you're still with me. If you live with high blood pressure or care for someone who does, type the word pressure in the comments below. This helps me know where you're tuning in from today and exactly who we are making this content for. Fruit. Number 1. The humble banana. Our first fruit is probably the most humble and familiar of the 3. The banana. We always seem to have them sitting in a fruit bowl, and we take them for granted, as if being cheap and common means they have nothing special to offer. Well, the banana is actually one of the most practical sources of potassium on Earth. A medium banana gives you about 400 to 450 milligrams of potassium. It's not a magic number, but it is a very real, very easy step toward that daily 3,500 milligrams goal we talked about. How exactly does the banana's potassium help us? Remember our tug of war. Potassium signals your kidneys to get rid of leftover sodium. By flushing out some of that sodium, your body retains less water. Your fluid volume normalizes, which keeps your pressure from spiking. Plus, potassium helps the muscles around your arteries relax. Relaxed arteries offer less resistance to blood flow, meaning your heart doesn't have to work as hard. I want to be completely honest with you here, because this is the difference between giving good information and selling snake oil. Eating bananas isn't going to plummet your blood pressure in a single afternoon, nor will it replace your medication. What studies actually say about potassium-rich diets is much more grounded, but highly valuable. Increasing potassium in your diet, especially when combined with lowering your salt intake, is linked to modest but real drops in blood pressure, especially for people starting with high numbers. Modest does not mean insignificant. When it comes to health, small, consistent changes maintained over months and years add up tremendously. Health isn't built overnight, it's built on consistency. Let me give you a hypothetical example. Imagine a 70-year-old retired woman. She usually has toast with salty cold cuts and a coffee for breakfast. She rarely eats fruit because she's just not used to it, and she takes her blood pressure pill every morning. Her numbers are just okay. If this woman, without stopping her medication at all, swapped out those salty deli meats for a banana in her morning routine, she'd be doing two things at once: lowering her sodium and raising her potassium. She'd be pushing the scale in the right direction from both sides. That is the kind of simple, realistic change we're talking about today. How to make the most of it. Slice it over oatmeal or plain, unsweetened yogurt for breakfast. Take it as a mid-morning snack. It comes in its own convenient wrapper. Blend it into a homemade smoothie. For a person with healthy kidneys, 1 or at most 2 bananas a day is perfectly reasonable. Pro tip: when a banana is very ripe and has dark spots on the peel, it's sweeter and easier to digest. Crucial warning. Number 1. Now, I have to stop and give you a warning that almost no other health video bothers to explain, and it is a matter of absolute safety. Potassium is wonderful for most, but it can be dangerous for specific individuals. Who? 1. People with advanced kidney disease. If your kidneys don't function properly, they can't flush out excess potassium. That potassium can build up in your blood to levels that actually affect your heart rhythm. 2. People on certain medications, specifically potassium-sparing diuretics, or certain blood pressure drugs that naturally elevate your potassium levels. If you fall into either of these categories, do not increase your intake of bananas or any high-potassium foods without talking to your doctor first. I'm not saying this to scare you, I'm saying it to protect you. The exact same substance that heals one person can harm another, which is why medical advice is irreplaceable. Do you take a diuretic or have known kidney issues? If so, type the word consult in the comments as a promise to yourself that you'll have that conversation with your doctor before changing your diet. Fruit number 2. Watermelon, more than just water. Our second protagonist is the watermelon. That massive, juicy, refreshing fruit we associate with summer cookouts and childhood memories. A lot of people think it's just water with a little sugar flavor, but they are dead wrong. Watermelon hides a compound with a very technical name, but a fascinating job: citrulline. Citrulline is an amino acid naturally found in watermelon, especially concentrated in the pale white rind that almost everyone throws away. Why do we care about citrulline when talking about blood pressure? This is where biology gets beautiful. When we eat citrulline, our bodies systematically convert it into a substance called nitric oxide. Remember that name, because nitric oxide is a superstar when it comes to arterial health. Nitric oxide acts as a messenger, telling the muscles in your artery walls to relax. When those muscles relax, the arteries widen slightly, offering less resistance to the blood flowing through them. Less resistance means a heart that works with less effort, and a natural tendency for your pressure to lower. Imagine it like this. Think of a crowded room with all the windows shut tight. The air is heavy and it's getting hot. As soon as someone throws the windows wide open, the air circulates, the tension drops, and everyone can breathe again. Nitric oxide does exactly that for your arteries. Now, keeping my promise of honesty to you, let's talk about what science knows and what it doesn't. Research on watermelon, citrulline, and blood pressure is incredibly promising, but a lot of it relies on small, short-term studies. The biological signs are highly encouraging, but it would be dishonest to present watermelon to you as a proven remedy on par with prescription medicine. What we can say with total peace of mind is that watermelon is a healthy, hydrating, low-calorie fruit that provides this fascinating compound. Adding it sensibly to a heart-healthy diet is a wise, enjoyable choice. Let's not ask it for miracles. Let's just ask it to be a great ally. How to make the most of it. Eat it fresh in cubes for dessert or as a snack on warm days. If you juice it, absolutely do not add extra sugar. Added sugar ruins the cardiovascular benefits. The secret tip: don't throw away the white part near the rind. That's where the citrulline is concentrated. Throw it in a blender with the red flesh for a smoothie. Crucial warning number 2, I have to give a specific warning here for those managing diabetes or high blood sugar. Even though watermelon is mostly water, it does contain natural sugars and can spike your glucose fairly easily. This doesn't mean it's forbidden, but you need to eat it in moderate portions. If possible, pair it with foods containing protein or fiber to slow down sugar absorption. If you track your glucose, watch how your body responds and discuss it with your doctor or nurse. Common sense is our best friend here. Fruit number 3, dark grapes and blueberries. Our third fruit isn't a single fruit, but a small family of dark jewels. Dark grapes and blueberries. I've grouped them together because they share a very special type of compound called polyphenols. And within those polyphenols are pigments called anthocyanins, which are responsible for giving these fruits those deep, intense purple, blue, and near black colors. Nature doesn't hand out colors at random. Bright, intense pigments usually signal the presence of highly beneficial biological compounds. What do these polyphenols do for our arteries? Their main job is to act as antioxidants and anti-inflammatories. To understand this, you need to know that sustained high blood pressure creates a constant state of wear, tear, and mild inflammation inside your arteries. It's like a constant friction that slowly ruins the incredibly delicate inner lining of your blood vessels, called the endothelium. The endothelium is incredibly important because it is exactly what manufactures a lot of that nitric oxide we just talked about. If the endothelium is damaged, it produces less nitric oxide, and the arteries can't relax. The polyphenols in dark grapes and blueberries help protect that endothelium from wear and tear, helping it retain its function. Once again, I'll be careful with my promises. Studies on blueberries, grapes, and polyphenols show overall favorable, modest effects on blood pressure and arterial health, especially when consumed long-term as part of a balanced diet. Don't expect a spectacular drop in your numbers just because you ate a handful of blueberries on a Tuesday afternoon. What is reasonable to expect is that, within a diet rich in whole foods and low in processed junk, these little berries will add their grain of sand to protecting your cardiovascular system, and that overall dietary pattern is solidly backed by major cardiology societies. How to make the most of it? A handful of fresh or frozen blueberries makes an excellent snack. Great news for your wallet. Frozen blueberries retain practically all their benefits and are usually much cheaper than fresh ones out of season. Don't feel obligated to buy the most expensive option. When picking grapes, go for the darkest varieties, black or deep red, as they pack far more of these beneficial pigments than green grapes. Crucial warning number 3. Grapes are fairly high in sugar, so moderation is key, especially if you have diabetes. Eat a small cluster, not the entire bowl. Also, run away from commercial grape or cranberry juices sold in supermarkets under a healthy label. Most of them are loaded with added sugars and have lost the vital fiber of the whole fruit. That fiber is exactly what stops natural fruit sugar from spiking your blood sugar. When we turn fruit into sugary industrial juice, we flip the benefits upside down, often doing more harm than good. Eat the whole fruit, chew it, just like we've done our whole lives. How to make this work in real life? At this point, I want us to take a breath and move from theory to real life, because all this information is useless if we don't know how to bring it into our kitchens without getting overwhelmed. Let me start with the most important idea in this entire video. You don't have to do it all at once, and you don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to move forward. People of our generation know something that today's rushed world forgets. Things that last are built with patience. The exact same goes for our health. Here is a sensible way to start. 1. Week 1. Don't make any drastic changes. Just add one banana to your day, maybe at breakfast or mid-morning. At the exact same time, pick one salty thing to eliminate. Cut out that salty deli meat, or decide you won't add any extra salt from the shaker at the dinner table. One change that tips the scale from both sides. More potassium, less sodium. Do only that for 7 days until it feels completely effortless. 2. Week 2. Once that's a habit, bring in watermelon during its season as a refreshing dessert. 3. Week 3. Start adding a small handful of blueberries or a little cluster of dark grapes a few times a week. You do not need to eat all 3 fruits on the same day or in massive quantities. The goal isn't to stuff yourself, it's to vary your diet and keep it up. A body that regularly receives good quality potassium, polyphenols, and water is far better cared for than a body that binges on fruit for one day and goes back to eating processed meats the next. I must insist on something sacred to me, because I've seen way too much irresponsible information on the internet. These fruits accompany your treatment, they do not replace it. If you take blood pressure medication, keep taking it exactly as your doctor prescribed, not a single pill less on your own. Never reduce or abandon a treatment because you started eating fruit no matter how much your numbers improve. Why am I so insistent? Because adjusting blood pressure medication is a medical decision made through tracking, measuring, and knowing your complete medical history. If your numbers consistently improve, take that data to your doctor. They will calmly and professionally decide if a change is appropriate. That is the safe way to do things, and it's the only way I can recommend in good conscience. A golden tip for measuring at home. If you have a blood pressure cuff at home, be methodical. Always measure at roughly the same time of day. Sit with your back supported, feet flat on the floor. Don't do it right after a cup of coffee. Rest for a few minutes first and write your numbers down in a little notebook. That notebook of consistent readings is one of the most powerful tools you can bring to your doctor, much more valuable than a single random reading done in the clinic. Turning self-care into an organized habit gives us back something precious, the feeling that we hold the reins to our own health. The bigger picture, your lifestyle. Let's not kid ourselves. Diet is a massive puzzle piece, but it is just one piece of the whole. Since we are being completely honest today, let's briefly talk about the big picture, because giving you half the truth would be unfair. Alongside these fruits and cutting back on sodium, there are other pillars that cardiology societies have recommended for decades, for very good reason. Movement. I'm not talking about athletic feats or gym memberships. I'm talking about walking. Walking at a calm but steady pace most days of the week, even for just 20 or 30 minutes, is one of the cheapest, most effective medicines for your heart and your blood pressure. Plus, it gets us out of the house, lets us chat with the neighbors, and clears our heads. Rest. Poor quality sleep or sleeping too few hours is directly linked to worse blood pressure control. Protecting your sleep routine. Going to bed at a reasonable hour, avoiding screens late at night, isn't just a trend for young folks. It is pure cardiovascular health. Stress management. I know at our age, worries are never in short supply, and some you just can't make disappear. But learning to release that tension through slow breathing, a walk, spending time with family, or whatever brings you peace, physically helps your heart. It's not magic, it's physiology. Alcohol, the unspoken pillar. This is a delicate topic for many of us. Alcohol consumption, even in amounts we consider normal or social, drives up blood pressure in a lot of people. I'm not here to preach or take away anyone's small pleasures. You are the master of your own choices. I am just fulfilling my duty to tell you the truth. If your pressure is stubborn, cutting back on alcohol is one of the levers that gets results the fastest. I leave that on the table, with all due respect, so you can decide with full knowledge. A quick recap of the crucial warnings. I want to put all the safety warnings in one place so they don't get lost in the shuffle. Pay close attention if any of these apply to you. 1. If you have kidney disease, especially advanced, potassium can build up and become dangerous. Talk to your doctor before eating bananas or other high potassium foods. 2. If you take potassium-sparing diuretics or specific BP meds that raise potassium, same rule. Talk to your physician. 3. If you live with diabetes, keep an eye on your portions of watermelon and grapes due to their natural sugars. 4. If you experience dizziness, blurry vision, or weakness upon standing, if you've been taking great care of yourself and your pressure drops significantly, you might experience these symptoms. It could mean your pressure is getting too low, which is exactly why any medication adjustments must be handled by your doctor. Don't ignore those signs. Report them. For the vast majority of people without severe kidney disease and not on those specific meds, these 3 fruits in normal quantities are safe, healthy, and delightful. But real medicine respects exceptions, rather than sweeping them under the rug just to make a message sound prettier. Final thoughts. Let's do a final review, a summary you can hold on to even if you forget everything else. If I had to boil this entire video down to a few core ideas, it would be these. High blood pressure is a silent enemy that should be taken seriously, not with fear, but with respect. Behind it, there is very often an excess of sodium and a lack of potassium. Bananas provide potassium to help flush out excess sodium. Watermelon provides citrulline, boosting nitric oxide to relax your arteries, with promising, though developing, evidence. Dark grapes and blueberries provide polyphenols that protect your arteries from wear and tear. All of this works best within a low-sodium diet, paired with daily movement, good sleep, and always alongside the treatment prescribed by your doctor. Above the bananas, the watermelon, and the blueberries, I want you to walk away with something much more important than any fruit. I want you to walk away with the understanding that taking care of ourselves at our age isn't surrendering to old age. It's exactly the opposite. It is an act of dignity and self-love. It is saying, with every small choice, that we want to stay here, lucid, independent, capable of playing with our grandkids, walking with our spouses or friends, cooking the food we love, and deciding how we live. We don't take care of ourselves out of a fear of dying. We take care of ourselves because we want to live well with the time we have left, which I hope is a long, beautiful time. And we are not in this alone. Our generation has raised families, worked tirelessly, survived incredibly hard times, and pushed through. We have more than enough strength to make these small changes. What we lack sometimes isn't willpower. It's just honest information and a bit of company. That is exactly why I make these videos, to accompany one another on this journey. Let's take care of each other. Let's share what we learn. Let's ask our doctors questions without shame and without being rushed. That's what they are there for. And let's treat ourselves with the patience and affection we deserve. If you found this helpful and honest, and if you think it could help someone you love, I would sincerely appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps this information reach more older folks who need it, and who often only hear exaggerated promises online. If you know someone living with high blood pressure, a relative, a neighbor, an old friend, share this video with them. Sometimes a gesture as small as clicking share is the difference between someone staying in the dark or finally learning how to care for themselves properly. Tell me in the comments, which of these 3 fruits are you going to start eating first? Do you already have any of them sitting in your kitchen right now? I love reading your comments, hearing from you, and I learn so much from your experiences and questions. Just remember, nothing I say here replaces the advice of your own personal doctor. They know you best and have the final say on your treatment. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying with me until the end. I know your time is incredibly valuable, and the fact that you dedicated it to your health fills me with joy and respect. Take great care of yourselves. Eat smart and with pleasure. Move a little every day. Rest up. Surround yourself with loved ones. And treat your heart with the same love it has shown by beating for you your entire life. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue talking calmly and honestly about how to live healthier, more peaceful lives. I wish you all a day filled with great health.